Hi, welcome back to Joy. Today we're going to continue working on toothbrush rug techniques. In this video, we're going to learn two different ways of starting a toothbrush rug. The first way we're going to learn is using the right-handed technique. This is the same technique that I've used in all of my other videos to date. We're also going to learn how to do the left-handed technique. I actually find toothbrush rug making quite ambidextrous. I tend to use my left hand a lot when I'm doing the right-hand technique. But for those who prefer using their left hand as their dominant hand, the method that I'm going to go through today might be the one that you prefer. So let's get started. The equipment and materials we're going to need are a feature fabric or core fabric in a contrasting colour, as well as a toothbrush needle, a tape measure and a pair of scissors. We start with a strip of the feature fabric that's about 1 3/4 inches wide and a strip of the core fabric that's about 1 1/2 inches wide. At this point, it's good to remove any of the loose threads that you can see on your strips of fabric so that they don't interfere with the start of your work. Then we can make a start by joining the core and the feature fabrics together using the regular technique that I've taught you in previous videos. Check the eye above if you need a recap. Now we're going to go through the right-handed technique for starting a toothbrush rug. We're going to be starting a circular rug. First thing you need to do is to thread the needle. You also need to secure the core fabric so that it won't shift when you tug on it. You make the first stitch by holding the join in your left hand and the needle in your right hand. Pass the needle underneath the feature fabric and pull until you've formed a small loop about the size of your fingertip near the join. The second stitch is created in exactly the same way. To start a circular rug, we're going to make 4 of these types of stitches along the core fabric. Ensure that each stitch has a loop large enough to insert the tip of one of your fingers because you'll need these loops to continue making the rug. I now have 4 stitches on my core fabric and I'm ready to start making the circular rug. To do this, I insert the needle from above through the first loop on the chain and go underneath the core fabric as before. The only difference between this stitch and the previous stitches is that now we're going through a loop on the beginnings of our rug as well as going underneath the core fabric. Always go through the loops from above, underneath the core fabric, and then pull up. The second stitch is created in the same loop as the first one. In this way we are doing an increase by having 2 stitches in one loop. If you'd like further details on how to go about making a circular rug, please check the eye above, as there are detailed instructions on how to make a circular rug, including knowing when to increase. In this video, I'm simply demonstrating the right-handed technique and a little further on, the left-handed technique. These techniques can be used for any of the projects such as making rugs or bowls or macarons that you see on this YouTube channel. One final thing to note about the right-handed technique is that as we are working, the rug is rotating in a clockwise direction, as we create the stitches in an anti-clockwise direction. Now it's time to learn how to do this using our left-hand dominant technique. As always, we start with the feature fabric and the core fabric joined together. As before, we need to secure the core fabric so that it won't move when we tug on it, and we need to thread the needle. Once the needle is threaded, take it in your left hand and hold the join in the fabric in your right hand. You then pass the needle underneath the core fabric and up, pulling until you have a small loop at the join. The next stitch is created in exactly the same way. Pass the needle under the core fabric and pull up until you have a small loop. As before, if we're creating a circular rug, we'll start with 4 stitches along the core fabric. Then it's time to start forming our circle. To do this, we create a horseshoe shape with our chain of stitches with the tip of the horseshoe on the left hand side. We then pass the needle through the first loop on the chain underneath the core fabric and pull. This is our first stitch. Remember not to pull too tight so that you still have the loop for later work. We then do another stitch and increase into the same loop on the chain. You'll note that in the left-hand technique, we're going to be rotating our work in a counterclockwise direction as we form our stitches in a clockwise direction. Toothbrush rug projects made using the left-hand technique will have the overall same outcome as those made with the right-hand toothbrush rug technique, aside from the spiral going in the opposite direction. For this reason, you can follow along with any of my how-to videos using the left-hand technique instead of the right-hand technique if you prefer. At this stage, the only exception to this is the rug with the bunny ears on it, in which you will have to use both the left-hand technique and the right-hand technique to create the ears. Please let me know in the comments below if you've got any questions about the toothbrush rug technique, or if you've got an idea for a project for which I could make a how-to video.